Hey, what's up guys? Back with another stream. Late Saturday night. Felt like doing some FSEconomy flying in the B1900D. And at LaGuardia, I've been actually flying a lot in the Northeast here, just picking up flights here and there, trying to make some bank so I can buy a B1900D in the game, or in the economy, I should say. So that's going pretty well. Let me show you where I am as far as FSEconomy goes. So I've got 1.1 million, and I think I've done like 250,000 or close to $300,000 this year, this month I should say. So I've done a lot of flying this month, and actually I think someone sent me money, like $10,000 in a group payment or something. I do have a group set up, but I have a group set up, but I haven't really launched it yet. And I think someone sent me like 10 grand. I don't know. I can't figure it out because I thought I had 10 grand in cash balance, and they ended up with 20 when I opened up FSEconomy tonight. So it's kind of a mystery. But in any event, I'm gonna need probably. If you look at the B1900Ds that are for sale, there's really nothing available in the U.S. I mean, there's one here in Finland that I could probably fly over multi-hop, but that's 1.4 million. So I'm gonna need like 1.5 million to pick one up, probably. I'm not sure what they go for in the U.S. because of the 10 here that are for sale, none of them are in the U.S. So I'm assuming I'm gonna need 1.5 million. So almost there. Got about 400,000 more to go. So picking it off pick by pit, and I'm trying to find a nice route. So here I've got this first route I'm going to run tonight, going from LaGuardia, and LaGuardia is actually a really nice place to fly. There's lots and lots of jobs that you can do, and a lot of like 100-mile round trip kind of jobs. So those are really lucrative. So I'm going to, is it Quonset State, North Kingston in Rhode Island. Okay, about 122 nautical miles. I'm going to go there and back, as you can see in the map there. So we got about 14K, 13 people up, and what's it back? That's like 10 people back. So it's not a huge, massive flight, but it's enough to make 14, probably about 10 grand, I'd say. And that's what we're going to do. The plane that we're renting nicely doesn't have any distance bonus. So, where is it? Yeah, it has no distance bonus. It's $800 an hour. So that's that. That's what we're going to do. Here's our route. Let's see. So we're going LaGuardia. Going to take the Cossacks GPS waypoint and into Quonset in Rhode Island, and then back this way, and we're going to take this Yeoman into LaGuardia. We'll see a little bit of the city, and that's pretty much it, man. That's what we're going to do. Quick flight. I may run 2 tonight, not sure. We'll see how things go. But that is the plan. So let's get right to it. So let's see, turn this on so you guys can see what the hell I'm doing here. Let's get inside the plane. I'm going already started, and let's get my GPS. We're going to delete that flight plan. Oops. Menu. Delete flight plan, and then we're going to go scroll down here. Scroll, and we're going LGA to OQU back to LGA. That's where we're going. We're going to basically do this and scroll this guy down. And that'll be our first leg. All right, good. OBS. Nope. TI there, and good to go there. So we got 300 gallons of fuel in the load. That should be probably good enough for the whole trip. But it's only 122 miles, so I know that's going to be enough. So Get FSEconomy. Start that flight. Get those assignments loaded. And let's see. We should be good to go. Let's see. The one thing I need to do is, let me get myself centered here. Get rid of the yoke. I want the pitot heat on, and I gotta go to auto on the pumps, and I want to see my main tanks. We're sitting here in GA parking, so we'll have to taxi over. I'm gonna fly at 3,000, so that should be fine. And I've got this all. Let me get my vertical speed to 1,000 on takeoff. And that should be it. Cool. Appreciate you guys joining tonight. Alright. Frame rates aren't fantastic, but once we get out of this area with all this autogen, it should be a little bit better. So can't wait for native VR, because hopefully that'll help improve frame rate. So let's get our flaps to first position, and we're good to go. So let's taxi. Now we're taking off in the opposite direction, I believe. No, this is the way. We're going the right way.
Approaching runway 04.
Yeah.
Entered runway 04. 22.
Doesn't tell me how much distance.
Approaching runway 04. 22.
Usually tells me the distance for flight. It's for flight talk. It usually tells me the distance of the runway. Got a lights on because we're early in the morning flight here. Okay, just another check just to make sure we got everything good to go here. And let's fire things up. Spool up the engines. Everything in the green, good to go. Release the brakes. All right, coming up to rotate speed here. And rotate. Gear up. Flaps up. Oh, come on, come on. There we go. All right, autopilot on. Autopilot on.
Autopilot on.
All right. We're flying right into the sun here. That's kind of cool. Got the ortho built out quite a bit. I think I'm almost at 300 tiles. East Coast, West Coast, part of England. I'm starting to build out England a little bit, the UK. Which is pretty cool. check this baby outside here. Oh, that looks pretty cool. Got the Santa livery going. You can get that on xplane.org. Free. Just go to the livery section and search Christmas or Santa, and you'll find it for the B1900D. Pretty easy. Just in case I forget to put a link in the description. Let me tell you, that wreath was a pain in the ass. It at least took me an hour and a half to do the wreath, because of the way it's. See, it's got, you know, you got the rudder on there, so it was just moving it. So you have to slice up that wreath the right way so it overlaps the rudder. I learned a lot about doing liveries doing this one. Let me tell you, it's a lot of work. And I watch Cessna Rocks a lot when he's doing livery painting, and I give him a lot of credit. That guy does some beautiful work, and you know, I can tell. I mean, I know the type of labor that he goes through. I mean, he's much better than I am at it. But and it's just, you know, his workflow's better. But you know, I know now, I have an appreciation for the work that he goes through. I just put up a video of this livery. I shot it in Juneau, Alaska, and did some couple of different camera views. So it's on the YouTube channel, Bambino Games, if you want to check that out. It's like a 3-minute video just kind of showing off the livery of this plane. So, to a pretty cool version of We Wish You a Merry Christmas. So it's kind of fun. Sunrise over the Long Island Sound right there. I don't fly a lot in the Northeast, and I'm starting to do that more because it's kind of familiar territory, so it makes it a little bit cooler. It's a golf course right there. It's like a golf course. Yep. See what our frame rates are. All right, 18. Northeast has a lot of auto-gen. And just checking, my CPU is running at 80%, so I'm not killing the CPU. Using 65% of memory, so I mean, it would be nice to have that. I mean, I talked about beefing up my CPU. What I was thinking about doing was, I have got a 6700, i7 6700, and if I go to 7700, either we're a standard or a K, I might just go to the standard, because I have a Z170 board, and I'll pick up even if I don't buy the K and I don't overclock it, I'll pick up like 25% improvement, or, you know, improvement on CPU. And right now with X-Plane, that would be beneficial, because this X-Plane is pretty much CPU not bound but centric, because of the way that it's designed with OpenGL. So it might benefit the system if I did that. You think about it. So if I'm running 82% right now, and that's with streaming and everything like that, and let's just say I get back 20%, so that would be like 16. So I'd probably go down to about 70% I'd be running at around there, and that's with streaming. So that, you know, maybe that would improve things. I'm not sure. I mean, if I still have I'm running 80%, that means I'm not overtaxing the CPU. Then it's not going to go much faster, because that's the software, right? That's a plane, an X-plane. So throwing a faster CPU at it, I'm not sure if that would make a difference. Maybe it would, not sure. because what I'm contemplating is I've got a laptop. It's an i7, but it's a two core, and it's got a hard drive instead of an SSD. It's an older laptop. It's like an older HP laptop. It's got a 7 series NVIDIA GPU in it. But I was thinking about throwing an SSD in it and making it a streaming PC. That's going to cost me like $100. Or I could buy a new CPU for my main rig for like $300 and sell my old CPU for $200. So it's either way, it's like $100. Is it better to have the power in my regular rig and just stream from there? Probably, right? So that's what I'm thinking about doing, just buying a faster CPU and upgrading it. The dilemmas of X-Plane VR rig, because I don't get the benefits in VR. If I have a 7700, I'm going to get the benefits in VR too. So it's probably what I'm going to do next. Next enhancement. I don't want to change out the motherboard and all that because it's just going to be a pain in the ass to copy everything. I just don't want to deal with that. So if I could just swap out the CPU, I have to update the BIOS, swapped out the CPU, and it should be. I should gain some that 25%. And so actually 25% would be about 20% increase, because if I'm running 82, 83, and I get 25% improvement, so we're talking about 18, right? And so it's about 60. So I go down to about 60% utilization when I'm running right now. So I don't know. Hard to say. I go by the adage, it's just always good to have more power. Never hurts to have more power. You know, it's been a pretty common theme in computer and processing in IT. The more power you have, the less you have to worry. So it did a nice job on the reflections of the water. I think that came in 11.5 of X-Plane. You can see how that reflection is moving as we're moving. The sun's reflection, that's pretty cool, although it's not all the way to me. Let's see what happens when we get past that landmark there. It's starting to stretch out more. And theoretically, I think the reflection should come all the way to me, right? I don't know. It's still kind of cool. We're going to fly across the sound kind of like catty corner here. Get a little bit more of a close-up of that plane for you. See the Santa and his reindeer? I got that. I didn't draw that. Okay, that came from Google somewhere. And same with the wreath, but you know, I had to place it and I had to cut it because of the way the Carenado fuselage files are set up. It's like in 3 pieces, so it was a bear to set that up. And you see the tail number is 1225, obviously date of Christmas, and SC obviously for Santa Claus, right? Other side, the same. And these snowflakes, each one of them I placed on there individually. And then on the wings, you've got all these Christmas bulbs, which I placed on those on individually as well. So, and underneath, I put a few snowflakes on the bottoms of the engine and the bottom of the fuselage. Thought that looked kind of cool. And that's that. Probably took me about 8-10 hours to do. I think it's cool. Pretty proud of it. Let's just check what's going on inside here. Alright, I'm going to pull back the prop a little bit. Pull back the engine a little bit. Oh, now look at my fuel flow. See the fuel flow in the left engine? It's not budging. Okay, so let's just check out, because we always burn the aux tanks first for some reason. So it looks like I'm burning evenly. Well, that's good. But I might as well do this. Well, I don't want to overcook it. When I reduce that, if I reduce that, the fuel flow in the right engine goes down, but the left engine sticks. That's a bug. But I got plenty of fuel, so we'll just leave it. We'll leave them cranking the same. Just keep an eye on the tanks. The other day, I posted a video of a crash that I had. We'll just keep an eye on the tanks. So look at the reflection on those gauges. The torque gauge and the prop gauge and the ITT gauge. That's coming from the sun, which is over to the front of me. How could it get in there? And also on the top of that, the autopilot. You see the reflection? That shouldn't be there. It's assuming that there's no ledge over top of it. It's kind of weird. Anyway, small little flaws. But yeah, just I wonder why that's the fuel flow is stuck like that. Anyway, we'll just run it fast. So while we're into it here, just want to remind you guys about the Virtual Reality Aviators group on Facebook. It's VR Aviators group. Did a new logo for it, for the group there. And make sure you check this out if you're into VR aviation, FSX, E3D, Aerofly FS2, X-Plane 11 like we're running here. Plenty of different people involved with different systems and different setups, and got 358 people so far in like what 3 weeks I think it is. So, and every day more and more. So it's some really good discussions that help if you get stuck on something. There's some pretty smart people in the group that can help you. So check it out. Just do a search on Facebook on VR Aviators group, and all you need to do is answer like 3 simple questions. What sim are you using? Have you ever flown in VR before? What headset are you using? Right? Answer those simple questions and you'll get in. So make sure you check that out. VR Aviators Group. Oh, and I changed the name. If you're watching this on Twitch, you realize my name was, my Twitch name before was Bambino Games Live. And the reason why it was Bambino Games Live is because my YouTube channel is Bambino Games, and Bambino Games was taken on Twitch. So when I signed up for Twitch a year and a half ago or whatever, maybe before that. So I went with Bambino Games Live. At the time, it's all I could think of, you know. And at that time, I wasn't into VR at all. So as things have progressed, I never really liked the name. It's kind of a mouthful. It's kind of long. You know, you got to remember the live. So I decided to change it today and to change it to Bambino VR. Because it's basically what I'm doing, right? Did I get back into flying side here? See, right here, it's probably stuttering because the CPU is taxed, and this is the time when a 7700 would help. But anyway, so I decided to change the name of my Twitch channel to Bambino VR, or my Twitch name, I should say. So just make a note of that, or if you've got it bookmarked or whatever, it's Bambino VR. Pretty simple. this is happening, man. Just going through stuttering here. Here we go. This is FlyInside and X-Plane, and that's why I'll be very happy when X-Plane Native VR comes out. I'll be extremely happy. Not that FlyInside hasn't done a good job, because it has. It's done a great job, but see, the frame rates are a little better outside. But I'm hoping that frame rates will be better, visual quality will be better. It'll be less taxing. You're running one. You're not reprojecting. I'm sure that FlyInside, taking a chunk of CPU and GPU. So hopefully, you eliminate that, you get improvements, and we shall see. One thing I've never done is I've never looked at what the frame rates were with this plane in actually taking a sampling of it. Now, when I did the Christmas video, I mean, it's a really, really smooth flying, so it's definitely in the 30s or 40s, probably in the 40s. And when I fly this in VR with FlyInside, it's always in the 20s, so it's half the frame rate. So my hope is that in native VR, a plane like this, if it's getting 30 or 40, that would be super. Super. Because as long as it's, I should say in X-Plane, and it's reprojected to 90, then, that's great. It depends on how it's designed. We shall see, right? A lot of unanswered questions until we get X-Plane 11 native VR, which, by the way, apparently is fairly soon around the corner. That last week there was a post on the X-Plane development blog, and a woman, Jennifer, I can't remember her last name, she put out a inquiry for people that want to be private beta testers for 11.20 beta. Put my name in, and so did apparently 70 other people, because they shut down the applications after like a day. So they're going to have some private data. Now, I'm not sure if they're going to notify you whether you did or didn't. If you didn't get selected, I haven't received any notification, but that just tells you that they're just around the corner. We could see the first beta of X-Plane VR. Boy, that'll be exciting. It's always cool when a new thing comes out, a new piece of software, a new system. X-Plane 11's been around a while, X-Plane 10 before it, and 987, before those. But now VR, it's like a new frontier, X-Plane VR, it's like a new frontier. Even though we've had it in FlyInside, it's still, its own new kind of thing, which is cool. So fantastically looking forward to that. Hoping that, I get an email Monday saying, hey, we want you to be a private beta tester. I would imagine I can't talk about anything that I do, and I probably can't stream it or whatever. We'll see. I'll ask that question. But if they say private, that means it's probably they don't want you streaming it. But anyway, well, they said by Christmas we should have it, and by Christmas it's probably going to, hopefully we'll have the beta. Christmas is only 9 days away, so be here before we know it. check our frame rates here. Oof. Now I don't understand why that's 17. I just don't understand that. I flew this earlier today, and I was getting in the 20s. I don't understand it. Sometimes you get better. I guess sometimes you just get better than others. Let me go. You know what? Let me go. We'll change the time of day here. Put it at 10 o'clock. 9, yeah, just about 10 o'clock. Check our frame rates now. Yeah, it's still the same. A little less. 14, that's like ridiculous. I mean, this has to have something to do with the streaming and stuff. Let me just want to check my, yeah, I'm running at 82%. X-Plane's running at, let me show you. I don't know if I can show you. X-Plane's running at about 30%. Air server, man, that takes up like 10%. Wow. That's for the air server is the so you can see the moving map. That's a lot. OBS, it takes up more than, it takes about the same as OBS. OBS is about 8%. Google Chrome 6%. Oculus is about 7%. Yeah, that air server is a hog, man. Wow, I didn't realize that. 10%. Interesting. I mean, it's nice to have that, you know. But that's a lot of, I mean, yeah, it's like, wow, that's surprising. There's another one, what is it called? X Mirage, I think it's called. I'm going to try that out. Aki recommended I remember he recommended it, X Mirage. I'm going to see if that works. Maybe it uses less resources. I never really noticed that before, man. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, we're getting, you know, sometimes we're peaking up to in the 90s, so. It varies. What can you do? All you can do is fly it. So I got a question on YouTube today asking when I was going to start flying the Cirrus in Hawaii on FSEconomy. I'm going to be doing that soon. But I'm right now in the mode of like trying to make some coin, trying to make some bank so I can get a B1900D. And I'm almost there, Just going to take a little bit more work, you know. At 20, you know, if I could do 20 grand a round trip or 15 grand a round trip, it's gonna take a lot. Because the sad thing is, FSE doesn't pay you interest on money in your account over anything over $1 million. You don't get any interest on, which is kind of messed up if you ask me. I don't know why they do that. Because you got people in this game, in this FSEconomy, that have like millions and millions and millions of dollars because they've been in it so long and they own all the juicy FBOs, and you know. So why penalize the people that are starting out and tell them, oh, we're not paying you interest on anything over $1 million? I don't know. To me, that's kind of lame. There seems to be like a lot of kind of like draconian, is that the right word? Rules and regulations around FSEconomy, you know? I don't know, just, it's, I mean, listen, I really do like it, it's a lot of fun, but it's kind of like something that's like stuck in its ways, if you will. I don't know. Man, that ortho looks pretty. And I think I have my objects on low. Yeah, it's pitiful. Now we'll probably get higher frame rates if I... Where's my mouse? Here we go. If I look up to the sky, let's just see. It's about the same. Suffering from the frame rate blues, man. I turned off Windows Defender. I've turned off all the other applications. I'm trying to run it as clean as I can. Still getting doggy frame rates. I mean, it's smooth, but the problem is that if you're under 20, you're flying slow. You know, the simulator's not tracking to real world time. I don't know how much, but it's, you know, you're not tracking to real world time. Even like when you're landing is slower when you're like 14 or 15 frames per second, you know. But again, let's hope all that changes with native VR. We shall see. Well, thanks for checking the stream out, guys. Say hello in the chat. Got a little time before we get to what the hell is the name of this airport again? Quonset State, North Kingstown in Rhode Island. Quonset State. Never been there. That's one thing I certainly recommend if you are new to X-Plane and you're just setting up your system. You're in for some work. It's a labor of love, but the one thing you want to get to fast is Ortho 4XP scenery. Everything you see here is all Ortho 4XP, and once you learn how to do it and get the settings down right, it just looks awesome. Now, Andy in the VR, this is why VR Aviators group was great. He posted something this morning, a way to remove the X-Plane Autogen roadways because they look kind of lame. And there's a way you can actually remove those. I got to look in. He posted it on VR Aviators, so if you're interested in that, you might want to check that out. I was thinking about maybe doing a video on that once I figure out how the hell to do it. But that's pretty cool because then you have the cars and trucks and stuff going on the actual satellite roads, and apparently the roads are pretty well placed between the Autogen and the Ortho 4XP. The Bing pictures. That's with Ortho 4XP. What it's doing is taking satellite pictures and it's mapping it to the right spot based on like GPS coordinates. And longitude and latitude. I think it's longitude and latitude. But anyway, yeah. So when you get rid of those roads, it makes it just look even better. And I wonder if that saves on frame rate because you don't have those roads in the system. I don't know. Maybe. Hey, Cabby Lee, how you doing, man? Thanks for stopping by. Oh, I just make sure I'm not frozen. Thanks for stopping by, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. This is, as you know, it's a 1900. It's a great plane. I love this plane. So much fun to fly. And I do appreciate you checking the stream out. As mentioned before, I changed the name of my Twitch channel. It's now Bambino VR. Easy to remember. I never liked Bambino Games Live. It was just too much. Bambino Games Live. It was 5 syllables. Too many. Felt like, remember Zoolander when he did the syllables? That's a funny movie, man. I love that movie. I watched it the other day. It's great. A center for ants. So many great lines. That Ben Stiller is funny. You know, I think he's one of his funniest roles is Dodgeball. That movie is hilarious. It's not for everybody. Some people say, "Oh, that movie's stupid." I think I could. It's one of the funniest movies, man. Vince Vaughn is great in that movie, but Ben Stiller is really, really, really funny. When he plays a character that's like a half-wit, he's really funny. Yeah, the B1900D has been kind of acting up a little strange there, Gabby. Let me just show you something that happened here. Let me get inside this beast. So, let me just make sure how we're doing on gas. Okay. So check this out. If I pull the throttle back, watch the fuel flow gauges. Okay, see them right there? Look at the left one. It ain't moving. Even though the turbine's going down, the fuel flow gauge is stuck. That's weird. Everything looks normal. The other day, I put a video up, actually. The other day. Oh, here's my turn. Cool. I put a video up, actually, the other day of a crash that I had because all of a sudden I lost both engines. And I looked over, and my left tank was completely depleted. I had 150 gallons in it, the left tank, and I had been running for about an hour. Okay, similar to this, maybe a little more time, and it was completely zero. And the right tank was still at like probably about 100 gallons. So, but both engines went out, and I couldn't restart either one of them. I did a video if you want to look at my channel, and I didn't think I did anything wrong, and I really think it was just a software glitch, you know. I mean, aside from that, I mean, I love the plane. I mean, I wish the frame rate rates in VR were a little better. I mean, the Carenado planes, man, look at that ortho. It looks awesome. That looks awesome. The Carenado planes are resource hogs. How much? Oh, I better get down here. There's my runway. Alright, time to take autopilot off. Time to pull the throttle back here, because I got to get down in a hurry. Sync rate, sync rate, sync rate. I should have been descending before that turn. Alright, we'll start to slow down here.
Sync rate, sync rate.
Let's get the gear down. It'll slow us down a little bit. I can't put the flaps down yet because I'll rip them off. Gotta slow this plane down. Alright, so let's see. Gas is good. Undercarriage is down. Mixture is in and prop is in. Slow it down, Bambino, slow it down. Got the throttle way back. Alright, I gotta put in the first notch of flaps there.
$500.
We're coming in hot, but hopefully I can. The second notch of flaps. Hopefully I can slow this plane down before we get to the threshold there. Nose trying to come up. This is not a textbook landing, guys, but I was talking, but it looks like I'll be okay. Alright, coming to 130 knots. Beautiful. Okay, flaps are all the way down, and we're golden speed here. Coming in nicely. Trim up, still a little high. That's better. Come on. Nice auto gen here, nice looking airport. Let's get that nose up, throttle down. It worked out okay. Beautiful, nice. To stop right here, I could just don't have to turn around. Stop right there. Come on, 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 come on. Good. Cooking. Good. Set parking brake.
Parking brake set.
Alright, we're going to shut her down. Set parking brake.
Parking brakes already set.
Why is this plane stop? Not stop. Alright. FSEconomy time. Guys, I appreciate you guys checking the stream out. I really do. Alright, you guys, let me just... Alright. Alright, we made about $6 grand that flight, not bad. We got 189 gallons of fuel, which is plenty. So let me get that other... Let me load up my next FSEconomy. And that's loaded. Good. Make our way back. I'm going to set my autopilot. Let me show you guys what I'm doing here. So we're going to set the autopilot to, got it to nav, auto select, vertical speed. We'll go up 1,000 feet per minute. Alright, and then let's just double check flight plan. So we're good. We're going to Yeoman and LaGuardia. Beautiful. That's good to go. And we're going to start this puppy up to get her back here. So throttle in. I'm sorry, mixture and prop in. Not mixture, the condition. It's not a mixture on the turboprop. And then we're going to go down here. Start the left engine. Starting to crank up, you can see there. Turbine's cranking up, we get a little about 30%, and then we can release this. Start the right engine. And we're good right there, beautiful. And let's click on the right engine. You can hear those turbos starting to kick in. Turbine, I should say. Oh, we're starting to move here. So get up to 25, 26, 27, 28, 30% good. And we can turn these starters off. And we get the throttle back. We want our flaps to 1. We got our gas in. Engines all look nominal. Fuel flow is the fuel flow gauge is stuck on the left tank, but it's not depleting fuel. You see, I still got even amounts in the aux. It always burns. I think it burns the aux first in this plane. I read somewhere. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. This plane's a little screwy sometimes. All right. In any event, we're good to go here. So let's get the hell out of here. I don't like to overcook the engines. Good, go? Yep, release those brakes, get back on the center line. We're going to be turning to the right to pick up our GPS. And I think in the Pro version of ForeFlight, it'll tell you like how much runway you have left as you're taking off. Gear up. Positive rate. Flaps up. And turn to the south. Get to... I'm going to start trying to climb to like 1,000 feet before I turn on the autopilot. I don't know what they do in real world, but that just seems like a safer way. 800-900 is probably okay. Autopilot on.
Autopilot on.
Looks like that. Whenever you see the white in the ortho like that, it's because it took a picture when there was a cloud. So unfortunately, you get the cloud. It looks like some autogen on top of that. Right there we go. Everything looking good except that fuel flow gauge on the left tank. It's kind of funky. Yeah, so I've had flights in this plane where, just go check the aux, this is just checking the quantities. I've had flights in this plane where it didn't touch the main tank until the aux was completely depleted. And then I've had flights where the main tanks were used before the aux, so I don't know. Then I read somewhere in the real world, in this plane, it uses the aux tanks before it uses the main tanks, which to me, if that's true, I haven't verified whether that's true or not, but if that is true, it makes no sense to me whatsoever. Don't you want your aux tanks there for an emergency? I would think. So you'd want to use your mains first, right? And then go to your aux tanks if you have an emergency or you run out of gas or whatever. So still not sure about that. I'll definitely never know because in real life I'll never fly a Beechcraft B1900. Well, it looks like a radio beacon there. That's the cool thing about the ortho, like you can pick up cool shit, you know, as you're flying along. See a lot of like high schools, and which high schools have like shitty football fields and which high schools have really nice football fields. You know, it's kind of cool. Let's check our frame rates now. Yeah, 15. Let's go outside. We're at 3,000. Yep. I'm going to run her. I'm just going to pull the prop back a little bit. But I'm going to run this. I'll feather it down a little bit. We'll run her about 92%. I mean, the engines, the turbines are exactly the same. Everything, all the dials are the same except the fuel flow, which is perplexing. Strange thing about software, I mean, that's what all this is, right? It's basically software. We're flying in software, which is really, really wild if you think about it. You know, I was thinking about this the other day, or maybe, last night. How far flight simulation has come as we're in this limbo between flying inside and X-plane. Come on back in, come on back in. Come on back in. Hate this when it happens. I'm always deathly afraid we're going to crash. Which we just did. Alright, well, we're going to have to restart. Oh no, here we go. This went black. Now we're flying again. Anyway, I was thinking today how far we have come in flight simulation. So, I mean, really, so for those of you who are like me that have been involved in flight simulation since like day one, right? So day one was Apple II, 1982, I guess it was. I'm dating myself. Apple II and SubLogic, which before Microsoft bought SubLogic, right? And that was basically the Apple II was a CRT, and it had what do they call it? It was basically line graphics, right? Pixel graphics. What was it called? I can't remember what it was called. I used to write software in it, but I can't remember what the hell it's called. It was before vector graphics, right? But it was basically lines and dots, green lines, and all you really had was a runway, which was like two lines, like going like this, right? And then it had a center line in the middle, and it was on the horizon. You had the horizon and the runway, and you know, not really any landmarks or anything, right? Just like flat, and you would fly this thing. And you would try to, it would simulate, you know, your altitude, and you would, you know, fly it with the keyboard, because there was no mouse, there was no yoke. You flew it with a keyboard, right? And then it got a little bit better, and they added like radio navigation, which I actually remember learning radio navigation back then, because that's when they started to, you know, make few years down the road, when they started to have like destinations you could go to, different airports you could go to. There were still this old graphics design. Everything was green, right? Because it was a green screen. But you had nav radios, and you would figure out, you know, using the nav radio where you were with a needle, right? And then you went to when the Mac came out. The first Macs, like in 1984, there was a flight simulator, and Microsoft had bought SubLogic by then, and there was a Microsoft flight simulator for the Mac. And now you had like a white background with black, because Mac was black and white. And it was a little bit better graphics, so you could have things like a little bit of landmarks here and there, and you know, the airports had like some little scenery, but it still was like completely 2D and like, you know, no definition whatsoever. But it was really cool, right? I mean, obviously not as cool as this, but I remember sitting there imagining, like, can you imagine what it would be like if you could really do this, like it would look real world? And that's where we've come. And I've talked about that before, but like the people that start with X-Plane now, the kids that start with X-Plane now, they don't realize how amazing it is compared to where flight simulation started, right? I mean, when it started, it was... Today it would have been unusable. I mean, they talk about frame rates today. Those systems chunked along, and you were like happy that it was doing it, you know. And today, you know, if you have a little bit of stutter, people complain. Let me tell you, man, what we're witnessing right now in flight simulation is incredible compared to where we were, you know, 30 years ago. It's the progression. I mean, obviously, it's all dependent on computer power, right? Processing power, which relates both to your PC and your GPU. VR, you know, there's so many things that come into play, but the leaps and bounds of where we were 30 years ago is, and that's, I mean, I realize that's with anything, but it's great that flight simulation has had such a loyal following, and you meet a lot of people like me. You talk to a lot of people like me that have been around flight simulation since the SubLogic days, and you know, they'll tell you the same thing. They could only imagine in their wildest dreams flying a plane in VR and landing a plane in 3D. You could only imagine that back then, and it was like you could barely even imagine it. Like, how could that ever happen? You know. And now, everything was basically a Cessna 172. All those flight simulators were all Cessna 172s, I guess. It seemed like a Cessna 172. Just standard 6-pack, right? And, nav and like fake comms. Like you couldn't really talk to anybody. I think they've started putting in like a simulated ATC, like around, I want to say like the early 90s, somewhere around there. Still a long time ago. Now you're talking to people on Pilot Edge, which is really cool. And even the automated ATCs are really pretty good. So anyway, oh, look at that. I wonder if that's this. Oh, that looks like a marina. I was gonna say this is a shipyard. Looks pretty cool. This is what the cool thing you could do in VR. Outside the plane, you could just like turn around and say, "Oh, look at that! Isn't that cool?" So it's like sightseeing, like in Google Earth, if you will. Anyway, that's why I try to catch myself when I start complaining about performance, and say, "It's amazing where this, simulation genre has come, right?" And it's translated to other things like American Truck Simulator. That's a pretty amazing game, all right? I know it's not officially in VR, but, even in 2D, it's pretty cool, Train Simulator, TSW. TSW is much better than Train Simulator, in my opinion. Especially since they optimized it. It's pretty cool, and all that kind of came from the flight simulation work that was done in the early 80s with Sublogic. And it's amazing that the core of Sublogic, I don't know, maybe it's been thrown out, but that Microsoft Flight Simulator X or 10 has DNA into Sublogic because Microsoft bought Sublogic. And let me tell you something. I remember I used to work in an Apple store back when there were Apple dealers. Apple didn't have Apple stores back then. There were private computer stores that sold computers, and they had an Apple dealership, and we were an Apple dealer. So we sold Apple IIs, then Apple IIIs, and the first Macs when they came out, and the Lisa, and all these early Apple computing products. But I remember in the store, and I was a software developer they had like a software arm, so I wrote software for Apple II and Apple III back then. But I remember, but on the weekends I'd work sales on the sales floor, and I remember people coming in and specifically buying Apple II systems only for Sublogic Flight Simulator, and that's all they cared about. They cared about that, and VisiCalc. VisiCalc was the first spreadsheet. And VisiCalc sold computers. Lotus 123 came out then, and that was a little bit better than VisiCalc. But VisiCalc was the first spreadsheet software, and that ran on Apple II. And people used to come in and buy a $3,000 or $4,000 Apple II. Maybe it was even $5,000. It was expensive. Just to run VisiCalc. Like accountants and companies would run their businesses on VisiCalc. The early days of the spreadsheet in the early 80s, But a lot of people came in just for Sublogic Flight Simulator, and they would we'd set it up for the store, we'd load the software, make sure it was all working, and I remember they'd sit down at the computer, and they'd sit down at the controls of that plane, and they'd have this big ass smile on their face, flying a plane on a computer, right? Because again, you think about it, you could have never done that before. You never could have done that before. And now all of a sudden, you didn't have to be a pilot in a real plane to have some feeling of flying a plane. Now you could do it on a computer right in front of you. You can control it. It's pretty cool. The early days of flight simulation. And VR just completes it. VR is like as they improve VR, and it's all based upon two things. design of the system and processing power, right? So let's take X-Plane 11. So they know they've got an issue with OpenGL because OpenGL does not support multi-threaded CPUs very well, right? Which means your CPU, if it's got 8 cores, not all those cores, or not all those virtual CPUs, sorry, 4 cores, if it's got 8 virtual CPUs, not all those CPUs can talk effectively to the GPU, your graphics card, under OpenGL, because OpenGL is an API that it's a graphics API. So when X-Plane draws everything that you see here, it's using OpenGL as the engine to create these graphics in an efficient and fast manner, right? Sort of segmented into different building blocks to define what you see here. So OpenGL is pretty old, like it's been around a long time, and it doesn't take advantage of newer silicon designs, CPU and GPU designs. So once they go to Vulkan, now Vulkan is a newer API for graphics API that does have efficient use of multi-CPU to GPU communication, and also it does a lot more. It does it does drawing more efficiently. I don't know a lot about it, but what I've read is that it's like it's 3 or 4 times, maybe even more. It's like 5 times more efficient than OpenGL. In any event, when they do that, if they do it right, when they migrate to that, they're going to gain they should gain a lot of performance. Because let's face it, in a flight simulator, mission number 1 is to try to make the experience as close to real life movement as possible, right? So real life movement is like, what is it like? I think it's like 100 and I forget how many frames per second real life is. But real life is, obviously real life. Here, you're noticing, you're noticing some little bit of stuttering, a little bit, your eyes can pick up the difference between this and real life. So the end goal is to have the processing power and the design so that what you're seeing here, this plane flying over, getting ready to fly over the Long Island Sound, looks as if it's real. It's so smooth and it's so convincing that you can't tell the difference between its movement and what you would see in a real plane's movement, right? And you're getting that in 2D in X-Plane in a lot of cases where you have higher powered CPUs in certain areas on the map, but you still have some little jitters, some little stutters. Even when I'm running 2D, I run full out, you still get a little bit of stutter here and there. Speaking of stutters, get back. Come on, let me get back in that cockpit. Come on. Anyway, so I think what's really cool about X-Plane is that, and what makes me comfortable about my investment in X-Plane, because it is an investment, right? Not only investment in money, but I went to a black screen. There we go. We're going to come back here. Come on back. Come on back. This all is related to fly inside and VR reprojection. What you're seeing here. All related to that. There we go. Because X-Plane, on my X-Plane screen, it's running smooth. But basically, what makes me comfortable about my investment in X-Plane is that Laminar research, they say all the right things, right? They talk about improving optimization so that VR is a positive experience. They talk about recognizing the API that they're using, the graphics API that they're using now for 3D and for 2D even, is archaic and they need to migrate to a newer platform. It's not like, I don't know about P3D, but I'm not sure if they're going to migrate to a new platform, right? It's all based on the FSX engine. FSW, we know what they did. They basically took FSX and, put some mud flaps on it, right? That's the difference. The difference is X-Plane and Austin's vision is that they want it's continuous improvement, right? That's the mission in engineering and design. Continuous improvement, and they're trying to continuously improve so that they can crack that holy grail, which is real life movement, right? Real life visual and real life movement. You're never going to get there completely, but you can. The goal is always going to be there, so you're always going to try to make it better and better and better and better. Anyway, so that's why I feel comfortable. Because, yes, okay, you pay $50 or $60 for X-Plane, all right? And then you buy this plane, then you buy that plane, then you buy this add-on, and then you buy that. And then you beef up your computer, and you buy a GPU, and you buy, you could spend thousands of dollars around building out a optimal X-Plane 11 system, right? It's a lot of investment. So knowing that they're going to improve it is a positive. And I tell you what, my thought is that when they move to Vulkan, my guess is it's going to be X-Plane 12. Okay? I wouldn't expect it to be X-Plane 11. And I would also expect to pay for a new piece of software, just like when you bought X-Plane 10. I don't know, I bought X-Plane 11 fresh. I never had 10. I'm not sure if there was an upgrade special for going from 10 to 11. I would imagine they would have an upgrade from 11 to 12. But I don't mind paying that upgrade, because if they're going to put all that effort into, again, continuously improving the platform and protecting my investment in X-Plane 11, by doing that, I have no problem giving them money. I don't. The enjoyment I'm going to get out of it is worth every penny, So, and the peace of mind, not that it's a big deal, but still, I mean, if you're buying, like for example, I bought a $200 hard drive. I bought $120 in additional RAM. Okay. I bought a $750 GPU card, the 1080 Ti, all for this system, and mainly to fly X-Plane. But I did that because, I saw the fact that the company was devoted and dedicated to improving their platform. And when you have, I don't trust that FSW is going to do that. I mean, first of all, there's a million other reasons not to invest in FSW as a platform. One, because it's a game and it's not really a flight simulator, but that's a different story. But like P3D, I know that a lot of people rave about P3D, and I'm sure it's very good, but it's still based on the the FSX engine, right? It still has from all accounts, pretty bad native VR. You've got to use FlyInside. Everything that I've read, right? That's not what's happening with X-Plane. And maybe X-Plane's flight modeling isn't as good as P3D. I've heard some people say that. Maybe that's the case. Okay. But okay, so fine. It's still simulation. You shouldn't take it as real-world piloting anyway. And if it's 80% of what it is in the real world, I'm probably pretty happy. Go back to my sample of flying sublogic on a green CRT, right? But the whole gist of this is, I spend 300, 400, 500, 1,000, 1,200, whatever you're spending on your X-Plane platform all together. And I know you got a company that is trying to always improve their product. That's pretty cool to me. That's my 2 cents about Laminar. I'm so glad I got involved with X-Plane. It was, I was flying FSX, and I actually had Dovetail's flight school before I had X-Plane. And I got really kind of tired of it because, first of all, I didn't like the fact that it didn't have any real-world navigation and real-world comms and all that. I mean, there was multiplayer, but Microsoft, FSX multiplayer is kind of a joke, right? And there's but there was VATSIM and stuff, so you could do that. But, I always thought the graphics were kind of cartoonish. And then I remember downloading X-Plane. I wanted to do VR because I bought a headset. I had this headset, and I wanted to try VR. I tried Aerofly first, and that was amazing. And then I tried DCS, and that was pretty amazing. And then I heard all this stuff about X-Plane. And then I found out about FlyInside. And I said, oh, let me try this X-Plane thing with FlyInside. So I think I downloaded the demo of FlyInside. I downloaded the demo of X-Plane. I got it all installed. And I tried it out, and I was like, whoa, this is pretty freaking amazing. And that just hooked me in, But anyway, I'm very happy that I found it. I don't know how I knew about X-Plane because I had X-Plane on my iOS devices, which was just kind of like for goofing around, the mobile version. And then I watched a couple of videos, and I saw these people that were like, I think I might have watched John Fly for the first time when I first, really was starting to get into X-Plane. And I was like, I forget what he was flying, but I was like, man, that looks really cool. I got to try that in VR, And that's kind of how things evolve, man. I'm very glad, and I'm so looking forward to 11.20. Although, the one thing that really kind of scares me about it is OpenGL. Because, most VR platforms are based on Unity, or what's the other one? Can't remember. There's two big ones, Unity and the other one. In any event, and I know Vulkan is around too. OpenGL is very old, so it's going to be interesting to see what native VR looks like on Vulkan. On OpenGL. And you do have an outlier in this game too, and that's FlyInside, because Daniel Church, from what I've heard, is hard at work on developing their flight simulation system, VR out of the gate. And my understanding is they're tweaking the graphics engine, the map engine right now. It's going to be interesting to see what they come out with. I mean, he's written some pretty cool stuff with FlyInside. You got to give him that. So it'd be interesting to see if it becomes a competitor to X-Plane. If there's a room for two real-world flight sims. I know P3D is real-world, okay? But P3D is out of the reach of most people. Most people are not going to spend $200 plus a bunch of add-ons. I think, you could spend thousands of dollars on your P3D system. Most people aren't going to spend that. And most people are going to spend the $60 and build as you go. And that's why it's probably a better model. And Daniel Church might be tapping in on that, It all depends on how big the market is, I guess, But it's good to have a competitor because it makes both companies better, right? They're not going to sit on their laurels. Not that I think Laminar would, but, if they have a competitor pushing them, it's just going to make it better for us, And that's a good thing. Don't fry me, but I don't consider FSW even a competitor to X-Plane. I don't. It's not. It's a game. It's a flight simulation game, FSW. X-Plane 11 is a flight simulation experience. There's a big difference. And And listen, FSW is got its market. You know, people aren't interested in the real world stuff. They don't want to, build out Ortho 4XP. They don't want to hack and tack around. That's cool. They want to pay $25, get a base platform, and then, $30 here for this plane and $30 here for that plane, just to fly it around on set missions. That's fine. To me, that's boring. It would get boring. I like the sandbox. X-Plane 11 is a sandbox, so it allows you to fly anywhere you want, in any weather condition you want, at any time of the day that you want. And then if you add things like Pilot Edge, now you can fly with real-world ATC, or if you add things like FSEconomy like we're doing now you have missions and a reason to fly, and, FSW has none of that. It's a game, and that's fine. It's got its position, but it's not something that I would invest money in buying DLC for. Just not. I mean, like, this plane cost me $35, right? Well, it's not a lot of money, but, if I buy 10 planes, it's $350, right? And I think I bought 5, so it's a reasonable amount of money to spend on buying, plane simulators, or plane simulation planes. And if you do that, you want a platform where it's a sandbox platform that you can do whatever the hell you want with them, right? Flying wherever the hell you want. Not have to, in your own navigation, using your own GPS or your own radio navigation, not having to rely on...
Destination ATIS is 125.95.
And we're getting close. That's what's nice about ForeFlight. You don't have to rely on somebody else's GUI to create navigation, which to me makes it a game. So, anyway. Let me see where the hell I am here. Okay, getting ready for my turn, so let's get into the... We're going to land here. Get ready to land. Alright, how are we doing here? I hope we don't do this when I'm landing. Good. Hope that doesn't happen when I'm landing. I think it's just going to be this one trip for tonight, guys. Love that reflection on the water. That's pretty cool. Check this out. Stick your head out the window. See the wing. Ooh, look at that. The Christmas decorations on the wing. Isn't that weird? I don't know if that's... I think that's a Carenado thing. It's not designed for VR. You know what we should do is... Let's get down to 1800. We're going to go altitude select, vertical speed, and then we're going to go to down 1, 2, 3, go down 800 feet per minute. Start to descend. We're going to pull back on our throttle a little bit so we don't overspeed. Get our asses down. Yeah, it's really choppy tonight for some reason. The worst time for this to happen is when you're landing. By the way, that's the FlyInside interface that you see there, those blue windows. That's usually a scenery change when that happens. A lot of people ask me about, see the black lines when I turn my head on the side like that? They ask me if I can see that in the headset, and you can see it a little bit, but it's not as pronounced as you're seeing it. And one of the reasons for that is, and it's actually, I'm using Oculus Mirror, so you're seeing what I see in the headset pretty much, and I use Oculus Mirror tool for that. And X-Plane is the only, or X-Plane FlyInside is the only application that produces those. I've tried it on like 5 or 6 other games and apps in VR, and it's the only one that produces those black lines on the left and right side of the screen there. So I just think that has to do with lag of it's sort of like screen tearing, but it's vertical. And I'm hoping that we won't see that in native VR. That would be nice to get rid of. That is pretty though.
Caution, TFR ahead.
TFR, Trump must be around. All right, I got my runway. We're at 1,800 feet. Now, the reason why you don't see the skyline over there is because I have real-world objects pretty low. Here we go. It is dog slow tonight. Come on. It is just chugging along. Boy, it would suck if things crash right here. But they're not, they're hanging in there. Alright, let's get back in the cockpit here. Alright, we got 7 miles. I'm going to take control. Autopilot off. What beach that is. Alright. Pay attention to what we're doing here. Alright, let's see. Gas is good. Undercarriage is going down. Mixture in, prop in. Let's just see. We get 3 green. And we got 3 green. Starting to slow the bird down. All right, let's get our first notch of flaps in there. Alright, second notch of flaps, full flaps. 3 miles to go. We have clearance. I don't want our speed down too low. I don't think I told you guys I got a dog. Or we got a dog, or family got a dog. We rescued a dog. Let me tell you something. It costs a lot of money to rescue a dog. Yeah, it's amazing, man. By the time you buy everything for the dog and everything, it was like $800, man.
500.
There was a $450 adoption fee for this dog. What was cool about it though is the dogs were flown up from South Carolina from a kill shelter by these volunteer pilots that I think all they ask for is gas, and they fly these dogs up, which is really cool. But he's a great dog. He really is. Well mannered. He's in the chewing phase right now because he's a puppy. He's 10 weeks old. He's like a lab. He looks like a lab and hound mix. But he's got a great disposition. He likes to sit on your lap, and which is great. But it's not. I don't know how great it's going to be when he's 50 pounds or 60 pounds. But he really is a wonderful dog. So we got a dog. Not our first dog. We had a Cocker Spaniel before. He died a few years ago. We're dog slow here, man. Alright, we're right in the mark here. Let's get our plane down, flare it up a little bit. Use the trim, nose up. Throttle down. Trigger down nice and easy. There we go. And we are on the ground. And we could shut her off. Let her roll out here. Go over how much we made. Get those brakes on. Brakes aren't working, man. I must have brake problems because they have this whole... The last landing, the brakes didn't work too well. I got them pedal to the metal, and they are not stopping. But we could taxi off here so we don't lose runway. Alright, come on. Come on. Set parking brake.
Parking brake set.
Come on. Set parking brake. Set parking brake.
Parking brake set.
Alright, good. Anyway, let's see how we did here. Let me just kill FSEconomy. End the flight. Finish the flight. And I will take you into there. Alright, let's look at our log. Let's see. Yeah, we made 11 grand. Not bad. Not bad for a pretty quick flight, an hour flight. I'll take that. And so we're going to be, let's see, let me just move all my money over. 1.132 million. All right. I'd like to leave 10K in here just in case things come up. 1.13 million. So we're getting there. Another 300, 400,000. Yeah, probably about 400,000 to go, and we'll have our money we need for a B1900D. So anyway, guys, listen, I appreciate you guys watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button, and hit that little bell icon, and you'll get the notification of when I put a video up. But also, if you're on Twitch, please hit the follow button and the notification so you know when I'm streaming. And now, remember, now it's the Twitch ID is Bambino VR. Change that to Bambino VR. And looking forward to doing more flying. Appreciate you guys watching, and have a great evening.